Sit!
Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Rich Dotson. He's Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
He's Garret Price.
How's it going?
This is Dynasty Nerds, and we're picking up where we left off. The Cornerstone Draft. We had rounds 1 through 2, picking players from the 25, 24, and 23 class. If you missed that episode, it's very important you go back and listen to that before you listen to this, because you're going to be like, why are these players not getting picked? Because we already picked them. Some of them were surprises. Some of them were great picks, most of the ones I picked. Some of them were okay, like the ones Garret picked, and some were just downright terrible, like Matt. Picks.
Some people would say that they're not good. Well, time will tell.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many times in Dynasty, Matt, you know, for somebody who's been playing as long as you have you seen trades go through and people were like, that is such a bad trade, talking about like what the other person got, and then 2 years down the road, that other person, everybody said that made a terrible deal, got the best deal, part of the deal by like a large margin.
It happens, man. It really does, especially when there's crazy draft picks thrown in there or something like that, or a lower end, who knows if this guy's going to do anything player, and then he pans out and it looks amazing, you know?
Yeah. So last episode was like an hour and 20 minutes. At Dynasty Rich is feeling very doo-doo this evening. I don't know what happened. I think it was because outside watching baseball this weekend, and it might as well have been March. And I probably dressed for
June,
late May.
Yeah. Like what it exactly was. Okay.
Yeah. And like, dude, you know, that's like when you just start getting sick too. Like you're like, oh, I think I'm getting sick, and you got sniffles. Like I've hit that point, like since we started doing the show, and like 2 hours ago, like, yeah, I think I'm sick.
Yeah,
it just hit me now. It's like, I don't want to, I shouldn't be podcasting right now, but here I am, a man of the Dynasty people, man of the nerd, and I'm
flu game.
Yeah.
Sniffle your way through this episode. Let's go.
Who do you think is going to be a flu game episode? Boy, are you going to be disappointed. Matt, you're on the clock at 3-1.
3-1. Here I am. I'm on the clock. All the good picks have been taken, so I'm going with Cam Ward here at 3-1. No, just kidding. I mean, this is it. We've all been talking. We talked about it at the end of last show. Yeah. We probably should have taken Cam Ward higher than he went. So at this point in the game, I'm looking at the number 1 pick in this year's draft at the quarterback position in a Superflex tight end premium draft. And I'm swooping him up. I think it's pretty simple. We don't know what we're going to get out of the guy, but he's got a ton of skills. And I think really the issue when I watched Cam Ward was his footwork was a mess. So I'm sure if I can see that, not being a quarterback guru, the people there in Bengal land, or not Bengal land, I don't know why I thought that, in Titans country are going to get him all straightened out.
Former Bengals coaches. That's
what it was. That was what the connection was. The Callahan connection in my brain. So Cam Ward, easy slam dunk pick, I think, at this point in the draft.
No, I think that was a great pick as well. And I had a hard time deciding here because there were a lot of quarterbacks that I really liked. There were also a few receivers that I'm really high on. And at this point in the draft, I was willing to take maybe a little bit more of a risk than I would have taken earlier in the draft. And Rashee Rice is probably one of the biggest boom bust picks of this draft. We know that he just is coming off injury. We're not 100% sure what that's going to look like for him moving forward. But when he was healthy at the beginning of last year and the playoff run for the Chiefs the year before that, Rashee Rice looked every bit of a wide receiver one, like every bit of a wide receiver one, connected to a great quarterback that was willing to give him the football. And I know at one point he was as high as my wide receiver 7 or so in my dynasty rankings. Obviously he dropped after the injury a little bit, but I'm still very bullish on Rashee Rice this coming season. And if he picks up anywhere close to where he left off, this could be a really good value pick, but we'll have to see. There's definitely risk involved.
Yeah, I love still the upside of Rashee Rice. It looks like everything on tape, he's running really well right now. And you're right. When he was on the field for the last year and a couple games, he looked like a top 12 dominant young wide receiver. So, and being tied with Pat Mahomes and have an offset now of Xavier Worthy, a first-round receiver, looked pretty damn good last year as well. I think Rashee Rice is another very solid value. But at the same time, it's like where he is at the same time, it's like, it's okay. I'm okay with it because there's been such a nice influx of young receivers.
So many good ones.
There's so many good ones, which
and
pushes
that's why it's so
value
much
down.
easier to wait on receiver in your startups right now, to take the Bijans, to take the Brock Bowers, to take the quarterbacks you like, because if I don't get my wide receiver 1 till rounds 3, 4, or 5, there's still some really freaking good wide receivers available.
Well, what if you went Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs and then went back and grabbed a Jackson Smith and Jigba before he kind of did his thing last year? You were living life. You were living the high life right there. I mean, what I mean? Now you got 3 great players, and that would have been easy to do in a draft early on last year if you hit it right.
Yep.
Like what I said in the Lad McConkey take, you could take Bijan round 1, get Caleb Williams round 2, get a Brock Purdy round 3, and then still come away with a Lad McConkey, Rashee Rice, and then like Chris Godwin, and still get like a TJ Hawkinson. Like what a great solid start that is. Because I'm with you, like as enticing as I want the Jamar Chase and I want Justin Jefferson, like, you know what? Just go ahead and give me the for sure thing quarterback. Give me the Brock Bowers, give me the Bijan, and I can live. Nobody else is going to be Jamar Chase, but like I could live with Malik Neighbors. I could live with, Lad McConkey. I could certainly live with Rashee Rice. So Absolutely. You're right. There's a lot of value right now in receivers. And we're not even mentioning guys like they're going much higher that are not even falling in this category. Like guys like Drake London, right?
Absolutely.
The Amon-Ra St. Browns, the CeeDee Lambs. Like there's so much value at receiver right now that you feel really comfortable in a 6-year window, let alone some of these guys are in like that 10-year window. But like I love a 6-year window just as much as I love a 10-year window. So yeah, getting Rashee Rice here, I thought it was a great pick. I'm on the board here next. I only had JJ McCarthy, and like I said, I was kind of going to this and kind of trying to build like a team structure as well of value. And I went Michael Penix here. There's a couple other players that at receiver, and a couple at running back that I still like. I probably would draft in a startup, maybe a little bit higher than Michael Penix here, but I still want Michael Penix because I'm going to gamble on that upside. He's got Drake London. Him and Drake London over those last couple of games looked really good together. I mean, obviously Drake London dominated at an extremely high level, and Michael Penix throws such a beautiful ball and a deep ball, and he does. He really excels in Drake London's strengths. So who knows what happens with Kyle Pitts? They got Bijan. They have a really good offensive line. They play in a dome. He's young. He was a quarterback that I really loved his tape coming out of Washington. He was a guy that I think all of us liked a lot. We were saying at the time, like, man, this guy's gonna be such a good value. I know he's probably gonna go in the second round of these NFL draft, man, but like we were really questioning like how everybody was mocking him into the second round because we're like, this guy's a first round quarterback. And then of course he surprises everybody in the entire universe and goes top 10 in the NFL draft, even if they just signed Kirk Cousins to a major deal. But I think that aligned more with what we saw on tape compared to like where we were mocking him pre-NFL draft was just because of where everybody's put him in their mock drafts, right? Like that's we were more confused pre-draft than we were. I think we were more confused pre-draft, more shocked post-draft, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I gambled on Michael Penix Jr.
I like it.
That's a nice pick there. And I'm up next at 3-4. So if you're keeping track at home already, Jaden Daniels, I got Caleb Williams, I got Bo Nix, I got Cam Ward, and now I'm going Jackson Dart. I don't give a crap about your structures and all that kind of stuff. I'm just gobbling up all the quarterbacks. So you guys get none of them. I don't care. This is the Garret strategy of drafting. If you're ever going to start up with Garret, dude will just keep drafting quarterbacks. He does not care. You are screwed. You're going to have to come pay the piper to Garret. He's the man.
Literally, for what it's worth, I was in a startup this past weekend, and we actually did it live on the air. And we did it on Thursday, and then we did a slow draft afterward. And I did the same thing I always do. If there's quarterbacks there that the value matches, I'm going to keep taking quarterbacks, even if I've already taken 3, I've already taken 4. It doesn't matter because you're going to make trades. And what did I end up doing later? I traded Jordan Love and Caleb Johnson with 2 additional second round picks, which I'm ended up being more of a contender build, and that got me Jamar Chase. So I traded a 3rd rounder and a 7th rounder in the startup for a 1st rounder, basically. So that's why you do that, because you gain value later, and this guy didn't have a quarterback. So that's why you do this kind of thing. So I'm all on board with this, man. I think it's great.
Yeah, and kind of what you said, Garrett, too. It's like when people when you take the Gibbs and the Bijan, it leaves you a hole, like you sacrifice, right? So like taking the Chase, they probably went receiver. At some point in the draft, you go, oh my gosh, this is Superflex. I have no quarterbacks.
Yep.
It's because they're all on Garrett's roster, or mine in this instance. So Jackson Dart, I think is a obviously we're not expecting much this season out of him, but he's obviously the long term kind of guy there for the Giants.
And I'll never ever argue taking a quarterback, a 1st round quarterback anywhere in the draft. And I said this on JJ Zacharyson show. I said, man, JJ, like how many opportunities because you were talking about like what are some of the surprises in the rookie draft? So I was like, this isn't a surprise because like I understand why he's going here, and I actually agree for him going here, which is usually not something I say, but like, boy, how many opportunities you get to be a playoff team, a true playoff team in your dynasty league, and have the shot to draft a 1st round quarterback. Like, not very often.
Do you get better at that position without moving up in Superflex?
And you can never swing enough at, like you said, Matt, like you have Jackson Dart sitting here, like you're getting him at 3-4. This is probably too late, like even like taking Colston Loveland above him. Like there's a strong argument. You should probably just take Jackson Dart, because a mid-range quarterback 2 is still going to be so much higher than a tight end. And that's what I said too on the show. I was like, listen, man, I get Tyler Ward and Colston Loveland. They're nice, but like, the value in this rookie draft is at the tight end position. At the back end of the 2nd, getting Mason Taylor. At the top of the 3rd, getting Terrence Ferguson and Harold Fann and Elijah Royal. That's where the value of the draft is. So, like, you can get a mid-range quarterback 2 in Jackson Dart is what you hope, and potentially higher, or you can get a tight end. Like, yeah, give me the quarterback every single time. Like, you can't have enough quarterbacks in Superflex because they're such an easy position to trade as well. Like they're that shiny running back, but even more valuable. Like I said, you want to open the doors, you want to knock on the doors of like a Jamar Chase. Yeah. Draft the quarterback that hits, right? Like draft Cam Ward and all of a sudden, or like the JJ McCarthy, they turn into like a CJ Stroud. Guess what? Conversations are open. We could talk. You can get who you want. So I love that pick, Matt.
And the one thing I wonder before we move on is if I took those quarterbacks in those same slots that I got the tight ends, the Sam Laporta, the Colston Loveland, if I put Cam Ward and then Jackson Dart in those exact same spots, would I have gotten Colston Loveland and Sam Laporta later?
Yes.
Definitely Loveland.
Right.
Laporta, maybe not, but definitely Loveland.
Like
the way I drafted it, I got all 4. So I mean, I don't know who you know what I mean. I got all 4 of them. So I
might have taken Laporta ahead of Penix, but I definitely would have taken Tat McMillan and JJ McCarthy over Sam Laporta. Yeah. All right, you don't know that in your draft, though. You don't know that,
right? I know it. I just I'm out there drafting and hoping and doing all this kind of stuff, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I got all 4 this time. Yeah, I feel okay.
My hope and dream here is that the guy at 3-5 does the same thing that the guy at 2-2 did, because I drafted a year later's version of Jackson Smith and Jigba in Rome Odunze, and we said the exact same thing about Rome Odunze when he was drafted as when Jackson Smith and Jigba was drafted. This guy's going to be on the Jackson Smith and Jigba train of give it a year. It might take a year or so for him to really get going because of the other mouths to feed, blah, 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 blah. And that's kind of what we're looking at this season. And then, there's a guy coming up soon that is on the Rome Odunze train for this season. So 3 years in a row, 1st round wide receivers that you're going to kind of have to wait a year or so for them to really get to peak value. But I like Rome Odunze quite a bit. I still believe in the tape. And we saw some flashes at times that you're like, oh, that's Rome Odunze. That's what I saw on tape. There just wasn't enough of them in year 1. But hopefully with the creativity in this Ben Johnson offense, he can finally blossom into the player that we hope he can be. The only question in Chicago is, what is the pecking order and how many balls go to each player? That's what we really just do not know at this point. I would assume Rome Odunze is either first or second on that pecking order, but we don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's the one thing that's really torpedoed his value, right? Like, honestly, I don't know if I've seen a top 10 receiver go that everybody's like really high on before it kind of like just fall by the wayside. Like, nobody was in on Darius Hayward-Bay. Nobody was in on John Ross, when those guys went that high. So, like, to see a guy who, like, everybody loved his tape. Like, I was the same guy. Listen, I'll admit it. Like, I was wrong. I was arguing Rome Odunze against Malik Neighbors. Like, that's how much I like Rome's tape. Like, I was wrong. I'll clearly admit that now. But that's how much I liked Rome's tape there. And, like, then the thought process of him teaming up with Caleb Williams long term. But, like you mentioned, like, the pecking order, man. When you draft another receiver 10th overall, and then you draft another guy high in the second round, it's like, man, how does this all play out? Because, like, you need, like, targets matter. Like, could Rome easily, ascend to that number one pecking? Of course he could. Like, he's talented enough, but, like, there's just enough nervous there where, like, he slips because it's hard to pull the trigger higher on that when you got a guy like, even like a guy like Rashee Rice, right? Like, you're like, oh, dude, like, I feel way more sure about Rashee Rice than I do Rome Odunze. And, sometimes when you're picking that high, like, you have to decide, like, yeah, man, the upside's there, but the floor's there as well. And I get it, because I hate making those decisions, right? Like, I hate taking shots in, like, the top 3 rounds of, like, drafts and 4 rounds of, like, big gambles, big gambles without, like, my belief, like, for sure belief.
True
like,
belief in them.
Because I'm not going to sit here and say, like, what I said about JJ McCarthy, right? That's a gamble. Like, I'm sitting there like, yeah, JJ McCarthy, I'm all in. Like, he hasn't done anything. Like, Rome looked good at times. He said last year, like, well, Rich, what, like, you're a hypocrite then if you say that. It's like, no, it's like, I'm truly concerned with that pecking order. Like, we have no idea how it's going to pan. Like you said, whole new coaching staff. They didn't didn't have Rome last year. They went and got Colston Loveland, though. They went and got Luther Burden. Why did they go get Luther Burden when they have DJ Moore and Rome Odunze and Colston Loveland? Was it because Ben Johnson's like, dude, this guy fit? Like, I can make this work in my offense. Like, if that's what happened, well, then we're all a little worried here. So, just enough to get him right here, but great value, I think, overall. I'm up.
Right. You're up next.
Okay.
Right.
Well, with that being said, I took Emeka Ibuka because I love him. I think he does everything. He doesn't do anything at tier 1, but he does everything above average. He's a very solid route runner. He's fast enough. He's got really good hands. He's got good receiving smarts, right? Like, he knows how to move a defensive back, whether it be with his shoulders, his head. He really owns the sideline really well. One of my comps to him, pre-draft was Chris Godwin. He reminds me a lot of Chris Godwin. When he goes to this offense, some people don't love the landing spot. I absolutely adore the landing spot. Like, he goes there in this offense where we saw Baker Mayfield support high-end wide receivers. I've said this before. Chris Godwin was wide receiver 1 up until a week before he got hurt. And then that week, Jamar Chase barely passed him for wide receiver 1 overall. So to have a receiver who comps well to a Chris Godwin, go into that offense and work with Baker Mayfield, tells me that I might have to be a little patient and wait till 2026. But if I have some patience, boy, is that going to pay off. I'll tell you what, Emeka Ibuka is going to be one of the number 1 targets I have in season, week 8, week 9. I'm hoping, because where he's winning the draft too is contending teams. When they need that running back or they need that, like, help me now receiver, Emeka is going to be the number 1 target I go after, trying to trade a veteran and draft plus. Like, here's my second and Mike Evans, same teammate, something along those lines. Here's Stephon Diggs is wide receiver 7 overall. Here's Stephon Diggs in my second for Emeka Ibuka, something along those lines, or a running back. So, love the player, love the land spot. Again, another running back I want to take here, but I knew in a startup or a draft, I would take this player ahead of him. So I went ahead and stuck with my guns and took Emeka Ibuka.
Yeah, love it. I mean, that's a really solid pick in my opinion. At this point in the draft, I'm coming up next. And I was hoping he was going to fall to me for sure, because I felt good about him, and I felt good about the guy that I picked. After that, things start getting a little bit. I don't want to say icky, because all these guys are still good players, but I do feel like there's maybe a little bit of a slight drop off. So I ended up picking Tyler Warren. I went for my 1 millionth tight end in a row. Seemingly, and just you guys got none. I don't care. I got all the quarterbacks. I have all.
Hey,
of the
I got
tight
Brock
ends.
Bowers. I'm good.
Hey,
Yes, you do. Yeah, you don't need to. You're right.
I got one that mattered the most to me. So I always, again, just knowing where you can get players. That's all.
Yeah, right. So I went Tyler Warren. Obviously, this year's up in the air. Who the heck is going to be throwing him the ball? Anthony Richardson. I hope not. Daniel Jones. Hopefully, just for a consistency standpoint, I don't think either one of those guys is the long-term answer, and neither one of them is super exciting. But if you're a pass catcher on that team, I think Daniel Jones is the guy that you want throwing you the ball personally. So if that is the case, and who ends up winning this job, then I think Tyler Warren has a solid shot of kind of producing in year one. If it's Anthony Richardson, he's going to be Adonai Mitchell right out of this thing. You know what I mean? And he'll have no value.
The one hope I'll give for Tyler Warren, if it is Anthony Richardson, is if Shane Steichen does what I am hoping a good offensive mind would do when drafting a player like this, because it's different than drafting Colston Loveland. Colston Loveland, he has his mold, he has his typecast, he could do his thing. But Warren, you can line up all over the field. So hopefully, if that's the case and it is Anthony Richardson, it's not just, hey, you're going to be a traditional inline tight end and you'll catch 3 passes a game and whatever. Like, hopefully, hey, we're going to line him up in the backfield some. Hey, we're going to do some end arounds. Hey, we're going to do like different unique things to get him the football, because that's where he thrived, on just being kind of this jack of all trades.
And that's probably the only way you can get the ball in his hands consistently. If Anthony Richardson is the quarterback. So I think that would be an awesome way to deploy him. I still think that would somewhat cap him if he's still not able to catch passes, you know what I mean? Like anything beyond 5 yards down the field, because the accuracy is not there, it's still going to cap him. So I think, yes, you should do that. You should do that regardless with him. But if he's not able to catch some stuff downfield from Anthony Richardson's erratic passes, it's gonna be tough.
Absolutely. Well, I mentioned this in the first show. I was tempted to take Rich's guy here because I knew without a doubt who he was taking here. I knew 1,000,000% who his next pick was, but realistically, I was like, I can't take him. I've stood on my soapbox, which has been the opposite soapbox of Rich on this one, and I went with Caleb Johnson. I think Caleb Johnson was perfect fit for his type of play. We talked about the Steelers being a great fit for a guy like Caleb Johnson. They ended up taking him on a team where we still don't 100% know the quarterback situation. Aaron Rodgers keeps dropping hints that he's going to sign. Seems very likely that he will, but you never know. And if it's not, that means they're going to have to run the football even more. So I think Caleb Johnson's going to get plenty of work. Will the efficiency be amazing? I doubt it. I think he's very similar to a Najee Harris, so it might be the production more because of volume. But at the end of the day, who cares as long as the production's there? And so I think he will produce for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think he's going to be given every opportunity to produce for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I feel pretty good about Caleb Johnson at 3-8.
Can't go wrong with you next. Yeah, so I'm going to clock here at 3-9. This is a player I wanted to take probably 12 spots higher. But again, it's about knowing where you can get a player. And I'm slowly going to realize either I'm going to look really smart about this player, or I'm going to look really dumb, because I've hyped him up at every guest spot show I could be, every tweet. I've mentioned him on this show multiple times now. It's RJ Harvey, running back of the Denver Broncos. And I know I'm just going to be redundant because I'm saying the same thing over and over. And
for what it's worth, Rich, as somebody that's not on Team Harvey, I want to make it clear I am not anti Denver Broncos running back. Like, I'm with you. The landing spot is awesome. The draft capital was awesome. Just not sold on the specific player. But if there is somebody that could overcome that, it's this offense and this scheme. So for what it's worth, I'll give you that.
And that's what it is. It's I wasn't the highest on Harvey's tape, and I had to go back and watch it. Like, but he's got the speed, he's got the pass catching ability, and I've seen what Sean Payton's offense can do for a running back. I said Denver has the number 1 run blocking offensive line in the NFL last year. That he has no competition whatsoever besides like a 5'8" Jaleel McLaughlin. That's it. Andre Gasmi was inactive in the playoffs last year. So like he's got zero competition, the clearest path on a team that does not have a lot of weapons. Their weapons are Evan Ingram, Pat Bryant, Marvin Mims, and Cortland Sutton. Those are their other weapons. RJ Harvey is their guy in this offense. He's going to catch passes. He's gonna run the ball behind the best run blocking line in the NFL. Sean Payton, year in, year out, produces these running backs. Some of the guys you never heard, like the Pierre Thomases out there. Who is that pass catcher running back out there?
Aaron Sproles.
Aaron Sproles. Like he makes these guys into running back ones. And JJ Zacharyson had a good stat. He's like, yeah, Rich. He's like, I'm in it too because like he's like, I did a study like over Sean Payton's entire career, his running back, and I think it was like a 15-year thing was what he said. It was like was always top 6 in targets, always top 6. So
I think even Javonte has caught like 90 balls over the last 2 years or something like that. Like he's just an okay pass catching back.
So RJ Harvey is set up for such massive success. Like I can't, like I'm drooling at it. And I hate it so much. I've talked about it so much because I've tried to trade for him in every single league. Because I surprisingly have less shares than I even thought I would have because of the picks I ended up having. And nobody will trade him to me because I've talked him up so much. Like if you're like, all my leagues are nerd herd leagues. So nobody's trading to me. So I have to be a little bit more aggressive out here. But this is a player I honestly would have no problem taking significantly higher because the positional value. It kind of goes back to what you and I think we're talking about. I think it was a nerd herd show, Garrett, going, the biggest thing is like what I think RJ Harvey is going to get me back in return for the value where he's going. Like we're even here at 3.9 because we saw what Bucky Irvin did last year and how his value skyrocketed. I'll take this like a step further, like how much I'm in on RJ Harvey. I think you take that Bucky Irvin hype and I think you could double it for RJ Harvey. Like that's how strong a year I think he's going to have because I think he's just going to be funneled with touches. I think RJ Harvey has a shot. This is bold. I think RJ Harvey has a shot to be a top 6 fantasy running back this year because the offense he plays.
Wow.
Yeah, I really do. I generally like, and the more I read into it, and the more I'm studying and trying to find like, like when you're on a player, you want to find like more data to like back up your arguments. Like the more I dig in, just all more points to like RJ Harvey just dominating, you know what I mean? Like at a high level. Again, not like I think he's the best running back by any means, but I think the situation is absolutely perfect and with the player fit. And every week I read these like other little nuggets about like these other teams that were super mad because they wanted to go out. Like they were real mad. They all plan on taking RJ Harvey right around where Denver took him. So yeah, man, all in. You're right, Garrett. I had him hovered. I had him in the name because I wanted to take him there because that's where I think I valued him. And somebody just wrote me last week, like, dude, you really want RJ Harvey really bad? Because he declined one offer. I sent him another offer. And I was like, yes, I do. And a lot of I'm getting people like, I got to see him on the field first. Like, I'm not trading him. Like, I've been trying so hard. Some people are just like telling me no. Like, there's like almost no offer like I'm going to send. And I'm not. And that's the thing. Like, I'm trying to keep myself in position. Garrett really said, like, I don't want to like get like almost to the point I offered a 27 first. I'm like, no, dude, I can't do that. I can't get that. Like I've been inquiring those. And like Garrett says, like how many times we see people we push up because of draft capital and stuff. Like I have to keep that back in my mind and not like, I want to do that. What looks like an overpay is an underpay tomorrow is what I really want to apply here. I've been checking myself not to like get a little too crazy in that standard because I don't want to shoot myself in the foot, but there's a big part of me goes, man, I bet in 6-7 months, I'm like, oh, I wish I would have done exactly what I thought I should have done.
Sure. And sometimes you have convictions about guys and you got to go with those. And sometimes you'll hit on it and sometimes you won't. But I would always, for somebody that's not in on him, like I would always rather be the guy going in on my convictions and being wrong and being like, oh man, that sucks. As opposed to the guy like, I knew it. I should have done it. Like there's nothing worse than like not trusting your gut and it would have been correct. So just for what it's worth though, running back six last year, Kyron Williams, he had about 1,300 yards rushing and 14 touchdowns, an additional 182 through the air and 2 touchdowns. So it would be a big season, but we'll see.
We will see. I like the RJ Harvey. I mean, I like RJ Harvey as a running back. I love the landing spot. I don't love that he's 24 years old or whatever he is. That's the thing that scares me away from him. Nothing else. So RJ Harvey, he's like almost one of these guys that are hard to nail down for me in my own brain. Like, what? Because there's so much. There's like you could sit there and write out a pros and a cons list, and both of them have got stuff in each column, and it's really hard, and I just don't know how to weigh that guy out properly, and that's probably why I haven't had him in any of my drafts yet. Not to say that I won't. I still have 3 or 4 drafts that happen kind of later on, but for right now, I'm still trying to figure out exactly how I feel. I have him ranked somewhere, but exactly how I actually feel about him.
It's my motivation. I said a couple of drafts ago, and I'm like, okay, I don't have a lot of RJ Harvey now, but I will have I will be getting RJ Harvey later for sure.
Yeah, right. So I'm up next at 310. I go Cam Scatterbo. The pickings were getting kind of slim at the running back position as far as guys that I felt were capable of being 3-down guys. And Cam Scatterbo, I think, can do everything. The one thing he's lacking is breakaway speed. So he can catch passes really well. He can operate between tackles. He can make people miss. He's got really good contact balance. All this good stuff. He went a little bit later in the draft, but it's him and Tyrone Tracy, who also was a late round guy and a converted wide receiver from last year. So from like a skills standpoint, I see Cam Scatterbo as better than Tyrone Tracy. So while I think those guys are going to share carries, I do think Cam Scatterbo is going to be the guy eventually, if not right off the rip.
No, I'm really glad you made that pick because I felt like I had to take Cam Scatterbo because I love him and my heart wouldn't let me not take him. But I felt like the guy after was probably the better pick. Sure. But I wasn't going to make the better pick. I was going to make the pick my heart wanted, which was Cam Scatterbo. But you saved me from that. And even saying that, the upside for Cam Scatterbo is crazy. Like he could take over this role. He can do anything you ask him to do other than be a guy that consistently breaks long plays. Like that's the only thing that is not really in his bag of tricks. But literally anything else, like this guy has the capability to be able to do. I ended up going with Chase Brown here. And as a show, we've been down a little bit on Chase Brown. But I think you could easily see him, if it was 3 different people doing this, you could see him going at the end or maybe even mid of the second round. He had a fantastic season last year where he was running back 10 on the season. And that was even with the beginning of the year just kind of being like, still getting worked in, but I look at how he ended his season for the most part. From week 9 on, 26.7 points, 22.4, 19.3. Then he had his bye, 19 points, 24.3, 26.3, 13.9, 13.1. Like he was just so freaking consistent with just big games. And even like when he had an off week, it was like, 13 points.
Oh, no.
Like those are still pretty darn good weeks. So he was just an amazing asset for this team. They didn't really do anything significant in the offseason. They re-signed Zach Moss, which is just a depth piece, and they drafted in the 6th round Taj Brooks. So you're not really too worried about a 6th rounder. I think they're going to use Chase Brown very similar to how they used him last year, which is going to put up a lot of good fantasy points.
All right. As I slowly die here and my voice is going and I'm feeling weaker by the minute, I take Dalton Kincaid. It's because I love him and I believe in him. I still think he's an excellent, you know, outside receiving tight end. You know, we found out he had some knee issues last year, had to get that cleaned up. Not a lot of competition there in Buffalo for targets. I know they bring in Elijah Moore. They got Khalil Shakir. They have Keelan Coleman, who looks bigger this year. But Dalton Cade, former first round pick, like this is the year he's got to show. If Dalton Cade does not show this year, then odds of him ever being that legit fantasy tight end are probably out the window. So, for a guy who hasn't played tight end that long, even played football that long, I'm okay with a third year breakout, kind of like we want to see. Kind of we said before, Garrett, those first 2 years, like Njoku and McBride could kind of break that mold. I'm hoping Dalton and Cade do that, find that traditional role where it usually takes a tight end 3 years to break out into a system. I talked with my guy who's in that Buffalo scouting system, and he said he's last year the plan was the way he was talking, like we really want to run our offense through Kincaid, and obviously that did not come to fruition. So I hope this is a year that it does come to fruition. I'm still taking Kincaid right around tight end 5 overall, probably right after TJ Hawkinson is where I'd be very comfortable taking him. But listen, I mean, a safer bet is 100% like an Evan Ingram over Dalton Cade, but I'm still willing to gamble on the tape and a player that I believe in. Tight ends are the guys I'll give a little bit longer of a leash on compared to other players.
All right, let's recap the third round, and then Rich is going to tell us a little bit about somebody that helps us out on the show. So at 3-1, we have Cam Ward, Rashee Rice, Michael Penix, Jackson Dart, Rome Odunze, Emeka Ibuka, Tyler Warren, Caleb Johnson, RJ Harvey, Cam Scattaboo, Chase Brown, and then Dalton Kincaid.
All right. So before Matt gets into his next pick, I got to tell you guys our friends over at FastDraft. That's right. FastDraft right now. Get in, do some drafts, best ball drafts, baby. It's a best ball draft summer. We're all doing it. They have a great promo code right now. If you use the promo code NERDS, you're going to match your deposit up to $50. And you're going to get in there. They have their big contest right now. It's their $50,000 Gamma contest. You get in there, a little $10 action, and try and win 50 G's. Spread the wealth. Buy your friends a Nerd Herd membership, but you don't have to be putting $10 because if you use that promo code NERDS, enter a contest, we're going to give you a free membership to the Nerd Herd. And we all love best ball, right? We all love the draft. We all love to essentially gamble on the players that we love. I can tell you right now, in my fast drafts, I got a lot of RJ Harvey. He's one of my number one running backs I'm targeting out there. And you can get your favorite players too. Get out there, use the promo code NERDS, go to FastDraft, draftfaster.com, get in your app store, go to FastDraft, use that promo code NERDS. If you do, we're going to give you a free year membership to the Nerd Herd, free access to the app, the League Analyzer, Trade Analyzer, the Lineup Optimizer, which did so well in its debut last year. If you used our Lineup Optimizer, it outproduced Sleeper, it outproduced Yahoo, and it outproduced MFL's what was it? The
projections.
Projections. So our projections did slightly better. We tracked them because we wanted to be able to say that on the show if it did. So it really did. So many tools in the app that help make your not only in-season decisions but dynasty decisions so much better. You get all that for free if you put a $10 deposit and play a game in Fast Draft. And if you're already a member, we'll send you a free shirt or at least a gift certificate of equal value to our merch store.
All right, and we also got to make sure we tell you about myffpc.com. That's myffpc.com. Best place to go and play those high dollar value games. If you are a baller and you're like, I'm so freaking good at Dynasty Fantasy Football. I know all the rookies. I know the sleepers. I know the busts. I can draft a legit team. Well, head on over there, put down $2.5K on that league. And if you're taking home that league, you're bringing home a pretty penny. So head on over there, use promo code NERDS. We're going to give you $25 off. But if you're a baller, you don't need that, but it looks good for us. So just help us out. But you can do a warm-up league, $35 league, and just get in there, get that basically for free. Do that, myffpc.com. FFPC.com, promo code nerds. Matt, worst pick in the draft, you're up.
The worst pick in the draft at 4-1 was Xavier Legette. I don't give a crap what you guys think. So this was a hard pick. I don't care. I'm not even afraid to admit it a little bit. I like my guy Xavier Legette, and I think he's going to come back in year 2 and prove some people wrong. He was 497 yards, so just 3 yards short of Garrett's magic number of 500.
He was hurt.
Short. He was injured. That was what I was going to get around to. No excuses, but he was injured.
No excuse, but I'm about to give you the biggest one. Yeah, he was hurt.
He was hurt. He was having a hard time catching the ball a bit. He had a wrist injury that kind of carried over from college into the pros. They thought he was going to need surgery. He did not end up getting it. I think he ended up getting a different surgery. I can't remember if it was ankle or knee or foot or something. It was something in his legs. But now he is focused. He's ready to go. I've been looking at all the interviews of Dave Canales, and he is excited for him. He looks like he's ready to hit the ground running this year. You know, he made it. There was kind of illusion. It was alluded to that maybe it was going a little fast for him last year. So, you know, I expect things to slow down a bit, and without the injuries to be a little bit smoother for him in year 2. Obviously, Tet McMillan was drafted in round 1 this year, pretty high. What was it? Was it 8? Where was he drafted?
I think the Panthers were at 7,
8, somewhere right around there.
Right?
Yeah. Regardless, but Xavier Legette, he was a first round draft pick last year. They traded up to get him with 32nd pick overall last year in the first round. So it's not like he's some scrub that can just be shunted aside. Dave Canales.
The issue's not with Xavier Legette. The issue's with all the other players that were still there. That's the issue.
Well, that's the issue now, but by the end of this year, it will no longer be an issue. That's my point, dude.
Let me ask you, would like 74 reception, 1,059 yard season, like would you consider that good if Xavier Legette did that this year? Just picking numbers out of
I would think it's a could stepping stone to what he could become.
Yeah. So could be, or maybe just get the guy that did do it in Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers is still on the board. Just had over 1,000 yards. The wide receiver 1 in this offense. We could have had him, but we took Xavier Legette. I took Zay Flowers.
Didn't. I did. I took Xavier Legette. Yeah. I took him. There's no mouse in my pocket. I took him. I don't give a crap. I like Xavier Legette, and I think he's going to be good. I still do. I don't give a crap.
Him. Like I like Javonte Williams. That doesn't mean I have to draft him here. He's not eligible. He's too old. But still,
I don't love Zay. I don't love Zay Flowers. So that's what I mean. I don't love that.
What
offense.
About Jordan Addison?
Do
you love Jordan Addison or Xavier Worthy? Or
Jordan Addison is another guy that like just falls by the wayside just because of like Justin Jefferson. He's a pretty good receiver.
Rather have Justin Jefferson. I don't know. Obviously, everyone would.
Would you know?
Listen, I see more upside in a guy like Xavier Legette compared to both of those guys. I really do. Xavier Legette, I think, can be a monster if things click. And Tet McMillan, while he was drafted higher, there are some things I don't like about him. So I'm going to go with Xavier Legette.
I don't disagree that there's ceiling, but there's plenty of players that have ceiling, but you don't have to take them here.
But Matt did because he wanted to prove a point.
I chose to take him. I don't have to take anyone anywhere. I chose to take him here because I like him as a player.
I'm just trying to save you from the TikTokers. That's all.
I don't care about the TikTokers.
He doesn't even have TikTok. Neither do I. I don't care about TikTokers.
I don't even hear what I don't see. You know what I mean? That was a Richism.
Sure. All right, Rich, you're up at 4-3.
So you took Zay Flowers. I took what I thought was great positional value here, and that was in Bryce Young. You know, it's easy to do that on Bryce Young, but man, again, for value, this is exactly where I'm at. This is number 1 overall pick. who, yes, did he get benched last year? He did, but could have been the best thing for him because when he came back, which was week 8, he played at a high level. And listen, he was thrown to Adam Thielen, right? Like they just drafted Ted McMillan. They got Xavier Legette, who should be healthy. And, they still have Adam Thielen. Without any of those, like without the dominant roster he has now, or a better roster he has now, when he came back from week 8 on, Bryce Young was quarterback 12 overall from week 8 on. So for 10 weeks, from 8 to week 18, Bryce Young was quarterback 12 overall. He outproduced at a fantasy football level Kyler Murray, Matt Stafford, Caleb Williams, Geno Smith, Brock Purdy, Drake May, Jordan Love, CJ Stroud. He outperformed all those guys. So as much as like people want to be down on Bryce Young, how much those quarterback scores, the fact that like what he scored from week 12 overall, if I go overall from overall players from week 8 on, of every player in the NFL, Bryce Young was the 15th overall scorer from week 8 on. So for more than half the season, for 10 weeks, Bryce Young was the 15th overall scorer in PPR leagues. Or is this standard? Hold on, I'm sorry. I have that on standard. So that was wrong. I always forget to make that switch. He was a 22nd overall player in PPR leagues, right behind Devontae Adams from week 8 on. 22nd overall. And you're getting that player right now unbelievably deep in your drafts and cornerstone drafts. Like I'm getting here in what, the 4th round of a cornerstone draft. So just imagine where his like ADP is. I don't have it right in front of me in a startup draft. Like if you're talking about the easiest young quarterback to go trade
right
for,
now, his ADP is 61st. 61st. He's the 22nd quarterback overall.
Yeah. So like 61st is a little higher than I thought he was going, kind of, I guess, technically overall for Superflex. But man, I mean, that's just good value to get the 22nd overall scoring player who just made their offense significantly better. And they're obviously going to try and build around, they want to give Bryce Young as many weapons as possible. 2 first-round receivers now in Legette and in Ted McMillan. I just think this is tremendous value all the way around. And I'm happy to get him here. I'm happy to make a couple moves last year to acquire him as well. And I know, I said it on the podcast earlier. I was like, dude, Bryce Young has kind of become a value. And it seemed crazy at the time, but here we are now 9-10 months later. And it's like, no. Okay. Not 10 months, but like 8 months later. It's like, yeah, this is real value. So, we talked about Dynasty as a game of chasing value for what you have to pay to get Bryce Young. There's no downside to it for what you can get. Because even if it gets a little bit worse, say he gets a little worse, what is he? He's a 40th overall scoring player, 50th overall scoring player. That's a championship caliber player. Bryce Young right now, if he does just what he did last year from week 8 on, he's a championship caliber player that can win you a dynasty championship.
Yep, no doubt about it, man. I think he kind of really resurrected his career towards the end of the season. I'm not sure I'm fully on board, but I'm getting closer to jumping on a ship.
Yeah, it's just about being again, I'm not saying he's going to turn into some stud, but it just goes back to what I always preach. That mid-range quarterback is still a top 50 overall scorer. So when people always were like, oh, dude, Bryce Young, he's quarterback 19. Okay, cool. Sweet. I'll take that on a Superflex team. Right. Listen, Bryce Young holds almost no value in a 1 QB league, right? There's no value there. But in Superflex, he's really, really, really depressed when it comes to value. And everybody should be putting offers out there for any older receiver you got, an old tight end, an old running back you can package. Can you package Joe Mixon and Mike Evans? I know it sounds, 2 real good players for a Bryce Young, on a Midland team, or if you're rebuilding, this is the exact kind of player you want to get, right? You're setting a clock there at 2-1, you can get Bryce Young. Now, if Jackson Dart's on the board, I want Jackson Dart at 2-1, but still, do you want Jaden Higgins or you want Bryce Young? It's easy to chase that upside, of these rookies, but if you're sitting in the middle round, if you can capitalize and trade one of those guys for a Bryce Young, you have to do that.
Yep, no doubt about it.
And I wanted the guy the guy Matt took next is who I wanted, by the way. Sorry, Matt. I don't even know. That's who I wanted. I just couldn't pass up the value here.
Yeah, no doubt. So at 4-4, I took Jack Besh, and the reason I did it over guys like Jordan Addison, Xavier Worthy, Ricky Pearsall, Jaden Reed, Jaden Higgins, Trey Harris, all these guys are available. Matthew Golden, Luther Burton. To me, Besh represents the last guy that I see on this board that has a shot at becoming the number one wide receiving weapon in their offense. Obviously not the number one target because Brock Bowers is there. Genty is there. I don't know where the pecking order is going to land between Genty and Besh. I feel pretty comfortable Bowers is going to be number one, but it still leaves a lot on the table for Besh. Probably not this year. I mean, there's going to be a Jacoby Myers kind of fade in situation here for Besh. But I really do think within the next 12 months, it's going to be Bowers, Besh, Genty. In my eyes, that's probably how it's going to go. Genty might get pretty close. We'll see how much he is involved in the passing game. But that's why I ended up going Besh here, and I think he's pretty decent value at this point. I mean, he was a second round draft pick, so a high draft pick here in the 2025 draft. And the Raiders, they don't have a lot. They don't have a lot of weapons. And from all the early reports, and call it what it is, I mean, in OTAs or whatever, rookie minicamps, he's looked really good. But we'll see when the pads come on if that translates. Everything has translated so far. He looked good in the Senior Bowl and all that kind of stuff. And every time he kind of takes a step, he kind of excels. So I think Jack Besh is one of these guys that could end up being a best friend to the quarterback and really getting kind of the Cooper Kupp type of treatment as far as getting peppered or Puka Nacua, whoever you want in that offense that just gets all the targets, that he could end up being that guy.
Yeah, I don't mind Jack Besh at all. I think he's a talented player. He definitely has upside. But I was thrilled that Jordan Addison was still here for me in the fourth round. He was wide receiver 23 overall in his rookie season, and then he was wide receiver 21 last year. So he's been a very solid wide receiver 2 every single year of his career. I don't expect much to change as far as that goes. I expect him to still be a pretty steady wide receiver 2 over the course of an entire season. His week to week can be a little bit more roller coastery than I love, but the numbers are there by the end of the year. And he's somebody right now that you don't have to draft as a wide receiver 2, but he's going to continue to give you that wide receiver 2 type of production. So I think he's a really, really good value overall in this draft. And right now his ADP, he's going as wide receiver 25. So even looking like overall ADP, he's going as wide receiver 25. Emeka Egbuka, who went well over a round earlier, or was it exactly a round earlier? I don't know. Where did he end up going? 3.6. And I got Jordan Addison at 3.5. Emeka Egbuka's ADP is wide receiver 26. So they're going kind of neck and neck there. So just felt like really, really good value.
It is good value. I think we're losing Rich here, so let's try to go a little bit more rapido. For the next
the one
few,
time Rich is tired, we now need to go faster. That's how it is.
I'm deceasing. I'm
all
sorry.
right, Rich, you're up, man. You're up at 4.6.
I feel like I'm dying. Real quick, Xavier Worthy, wide receiver, first round for Kansas City. And what I love the most about Xavier Worthy, outside of he looked really good as the season went along. Obviously, his first game, he looked fantastic, but he looked good at the end of the year as well, and even in the playoffs. I love the way that Andy Reid is figuring out ways to manufacture touches and putting Xavier Worthy in position to succeed. And I think the addition of a guy like Ray Rice can really help Worthy in that matter as well. So I think Worthy has a really good chance to be I think his ceiling's much higher than a Jordan Addison from a fantasy football standpoint. Real speed, explosiveness, and actually kind of showed out a little bit more. He actually put on tape more than I expected in 2024. So really happy with his upside. I think he's got a bright future. Love to slide him in my wide receiver 3 slot, my dynasty team, and hope they get that mid-range, the even low end wide receiver 2 production.
All right, at 4-7, I went Ricky Pearsall, and very similar type of feel. Former first round draft pick, in last year's draft and 2024 draft of San Francisco. Love the offense. Obviously, who knows how the pecking order is going to kind of unfold here in San Francisco this year. But I think Ricky Pearsall has a really, really good shot at kind of rising to the top here. He overcame getting shot and still came back and had some decent moments in his rookie season, which obviously is a big deal. Brandon Ayuk signs the deal, then gets injured. So who knows exactly how he's going to be towards the beginning of the season, if he's going to be fully recovered from that or not. So it might just give Ricky Pearsall a really nice opportunity to kind of get his feet underneath him and become a favorite target there of Brock Purdy.
All right,
Garrett, you are up.
4-8. Tucker Kraft ended up being the pick for me. He was one of the last semi-proven assets on the board, and I say that very loosely because we only have one real season of good production out of him, and even that was good, but it wasn't anything amazing or special or anything like that. But with an offense that's just so up in the air as far as who's getting targets, who's not, especially at the wide receiver position, he seems to kind of be the steady for Jordan Love. He seems to be the reliable piece for Jordan Love. He beat out Musgrave, and even when Musgrave got healthy again, he just kind of just relegated him to the sideline for the most part. He's
just better than Musgrave. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it is.
Yep. So yeah, he seems to be the guy there. And at this point, I'm going to take any tight end that I think has a shot to become a top 3 guy, because if they're not going to become a top 3-4 guy, I don't really care about him. But if I think there's a younger guy that has a shot to enter that tier, that's where I'm interested. And I think he has a shot to do that.
All right, I'm next. I took Jayden Reed. This is a player I was really high on going into 2024. And week 1, boy, did he really make me feel really good about the decision to get him. And then from that week on, it was not the greatest decision. And I've got my concerns. They take Matthew Golden in the first round. They take Savion Williams in the third round. A little less concerned. My biggest concern is like how much that they like to spread the ball around there in Green Bay. The receivers only saw 48% of the targets, 25% with the tight ends, 15% with the Josh Jacobs, and then the rest with some of these other running backs. And for me, I know they came out and said that Jayden Reed's still the number 1 receiver in the team, and that's encouraging, but I don't care what anybody says in May. Doesn't really mean much to me. It doesn't hold a lot of water. But, Jayden Reed, if he can learn how to get more secure hands, like he is a dangerous weapon. Another player that can be used like in a Deebo Samuel-esque kind of a way as well. So he is unique to that situation to Green Bay. I still love the upside. I hope 24 was a down year. I'm way less confident than I was before in Jayden Reed, but I still really like the player. He needs to get his hands under control, and he needs to gain the trust of not just Jordan Love, but the coaching staff as well. If he does offer high-end wide receiver 2 upside, and I'm going to be willing to gamble here this late in our Cornerstone Draft.
Totally. It's a nice pick now. I was having a hard time picking any of those Green Bay players before now, because of what you said. They spread the ball around so much. It's really hard to see who is going to be the person that kind of rises to the top here. And that I know Tucker Kraft's pretty solid as far as the kind of production you can expect, but the wide receivers are very hit or miss and very hard to nail down. With that said, I went back to the tight end and got the last guy that another one. The last tight end that was on the board that I felt really good about, Mason Taylor. Obviously went to the Jets in the second round, and who knows? I mean, he's a very talented player. He catches passes very naturally and is very fluid. We'll see what we have in him this season, but in a tight end premium, I'm always willing to gamble on a guy like that.
No, I was considering him there, even though I just took Tucker Kraft, but he was gone. There's a few running backs that did spark my interest. A couple other receivers that I have at the exact same tier that I could have easily taken in a Matthew Golden, a Luther Burden. But I ended up going with Jaden Higgins here. Love the landing spot in Houston. Does similar things to a Nico Collins, but it seems like that's the style of football they want to have. They want to have those big-bodied physical receivers to go up and get the football for a CJ Stroud. So I think he's going to be able to learn from a Nico. And the draft capital was legit. I mean, he was one of the, what was he, the second pick or third pick of the second round there. So very
second round. I'll look right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, he was very early within the top, whatever.
Top 3 picks.
Yeah, so very early second round,
second pick.
Okay, so very early selection there. They obviously have a lot of faith in him. He could have easily been a first round guy with that type of draft capital, and there were rumors that were teams considering taking him there if they would have traded up. So ended up going with Jaden Higgins at 411.
All right, so my next pick in the Google sheet was Trey Harris, second round pick of the Chargers. I think he's going to do everything that they wanted Quentin Johnson to do. I believe that's really good draft capital. He fits Justin Herbert's skill set. Now, I took this player because the player I really wanted to take was a player we're going to talk in length about on our next show, but now we're not doing that show because I'm dying. So I'm pivoting off of Trey Harris. But Trey Harris is a fine pick here. I have no problem with it. And it's Jalen Wright is who I would take. He's what my number one player I've been trying to trade for. I haven't had a lot of success. But Mike McDaniel, he likes to run a 2 running back system. And, having Devon Achane has really suppressed Jalen Wright as well. And the fact that he didn't really do anything last year, but this is a player they gave up a 3rd round pick and a 4th, kind of similar to the Woody Marks trade. They gave a 4th and a 3rd round pick. And that offense is, predicated on speed and motion. And Jalen Wright is a 4-3-2 running back. And if Raheem Mostert at 32 years old can be running back 5 overall, while Devon Achane's averaging over 7 yards per rush and over 17 points per game, Jalen Wright has a role and a fit in this offense. Mike McDaniel has been talking about him as well. I think Jalen Wright could be one of those giant, massive sleepers in 2025 when it comes to fantasy football and production. I think he has a chance. Again, I don't think he has a chance. I'm not going to say he's going to be Raheem Mostert and be running back 5 overall, but I think Jalen Wright has a chance to enter that running back 2 category in this offense in the way that McDaniel will use him.
That was the most Rich Dotson thing ever. Here's the guy I took. Here's the guy I'm not going to talk about because we're going to do him on a later show. And then I talk about him for 2 minutes.
Yeah, but we
the guy I took on the Google sheet, which I already knew. I was like, oh gosh, he didn't want that player. Who was he pivoting to? And then it was to a guy that we're talking about on another show, so I'm not going to talk about him. But then you talk about him.
I have a long list of things about Jalen Wright that I like. I've been like waiting for the right opportunity to talk about him. I just haven't had a right opportunity to talk about him. So I'll talk about him more when I actually breathe and my head isn't feeling so fuzzy.
That was just a little tip of the iceberg on Jalen Wright. I like it, man. So check us out on all the places and check us out on our website. Get the Dynasty GM, right, Rich? Come on, all the good stuff. The T-shirts, the GM, all the other stuff you pimp.
You said all the places.
Just all the places. You just find us at all the places. That's where we're at.
Where do you find, like when you do guest shows, like, Rich, where do you find your stuff? I'm like, all the places you find stuff.
All the places you find stuff, you'll find us. Look for us. #NerdHerd. Come on, guys.
I'm going to go swallow the biggest gulp of NyQuil possible.
Good night, buddy. Adios.